Welcome to Merriam's Online Academy. Today we'll be learning the Song of Twilight by Nakada. This piece is from the Royal Conservatory Grade 3 book, and to purchase a copy, check out the link in the description below. I'm just going to play you the first section of this piece so you get an idea of how it goes. As you can see, it really depicts twilight. It's beautiful and flowing and has a really gentle, lovely sound. So in today's tutorial, first I'm going to go through some of the patterns that are in the piece, the rhythmic patterns in the right hand, some fingering, as well as the left hand pattern, some of the intervals and chords. And then once we've gone through kind of the nuts and bolts of the piece, I'm going to go back through it and focus on some dynamics and some musical interpretation ideas. So let's get started. The first thing that we should always take a look at in any song is the key signature and time signature. For this piece, we have 3 sharps: F sharp, C sharp, and G sharp. If you know your key signatures well, you'll know that your 2 options for the key for this are A major or F sharp minor. And if you take a look at the opening of the piece, it's actually an A major triad. So this piece is most definitely in the key of A major. Second thing that we're going to take a look at, and I'll show you this in the bass clef, is the C at the beginning. So a C stands for common time, which means 4/4. So we're going to have 4 beats in the bar all the way through the piece. Now let's take a look at the first section. We're going to learn this in 2 bar sections. So starting here to here. Let's talk about the right hand first. The right hand rhythm is important to learn right off. We've got the 4 16th notes to start out the beginning of the piece. So the counting for that is 1 E and a 2 and 3 and 4 and. Let's just clap that together. It's important to clap the rhythm first to really internalize it into your body, and then you have a sense for the rhythm before you start to learn the notes. 1 E and a 2 and 3 and 4 and. The second bar, you'll notice, is exactly the same. 1 E and a 2 and 3 and 4 and. So do that a few times until you get comfortable with the rhythm. The second thing that we're going to take a look at is what notes are sharp. So I would encourage you to go through the entire piece and really be aware of what sharps again? F sharp, G sharp, and C sharp. So let's find those in the right hand. So we have an F sharp as our second note. I'm just going to put a little dot beside them here, and a C sharp there. So if you need to write the sharps in, that's fine. If you want to circle them, highlight them, or if you can just remember, that's great too. So remember, both Fs here at the beginning will be sharp. So our right hand position begins here on the second finger, and here's how it will sound. 1 E and a 2 and 3 and 4 and then we get the same notes again. 1 E and a 2 and 3 and 4 and. So there's the right hand for the first couple of bars. Now let's take a look at the left hand. One funny thing about the left hand to be really aware of right away, otherwise you'll end up with some very funny sounding notes, is that the left hand is in the treble clef. That means I'm going to play up here. You might have noticed that when I played the opening bit of the song. So we have a C sharp again and an A, and that makes a major third. So we have 1 and 2 and then we switch the third just down 1. It's important to find some of these patterns. So each note goes down 1 step to here, B and a G sharp, 1 and 2 and. Then we move down by that third again, but we're going to change our fingering. So right here we have a 1 and a 3. 1 and 2. Now this one, we don't go down again. This note stays at just the bottom one goes down like this. I often look at patterns when I look at learning a piece, because that way it makes it a lot easier to find rather than reading individual notes on every single part of the staff. So the left hand would go like this. 1 and 2, down a third, 3 and 4, switch your fingering, 1 and 2, and then bottom note goes down, 3 and 4. Another important thing to do when, I'm just going to clear some of my ink out here. Another important thing to do when you're looking at the left hand by itself, especially in this type of a piece, is to already take a look at the pedaling. So notice we have changes every time the left hand changes. So it's a good idea when you're learning to practice the left hand alone along with the pedal to get those changes right away. So we have 1 and 2, change the pedal, 1 and 4, and 1 and 2, and then change again, and 4. So let's try with both hands together, just the first 2 bars. 1. And there we go. So now let's take a look at the next section, the next 2-bar section right here. So once again, let's take a look at the right hand first. For this couple of bars, we're going to take a look at the counting first. 1 E and 2 and 3 E and 4 and. Then we have a dotted quarter, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So the rhythm is very similar to the beginning, but we do have that dotted quarter note in bar 4. Make sure you look for all your sharps again, and this is how this would sound. 1 E and 2 and 3 E and 4 and 1 and 2. Notice right here, I put my 4th finger on the E after the F sharp rather than going like this. And that's so we can keep that nice and connected. So be sure that you keep that fingering in mind right there. Let's take a look at the left hand. So the first chord here, nice and easy, we actually have an entire bar of the same chord. The notes are D, F sharp, and A, which makes our D major triad. Nice and simple to play. And we've got that 4 times, and notice the pedal will hold all the way across there. And 2, and 3, and 4. Now we're shifting down. We're going to use finger 1 and 3 again. The notes are E and C sharp. So we've got that 3rd, and then our E stays, and our bottom finger goes down 1. So that's the whole next 2 bars. So let's put that with both hands together, along with the pedal. 2 and 3 E and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Great job. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the next section. Let's take a look actually at 4 bars this time, right from here until here. So our right hand is almost, actually it is exactly the same in this bar and this bar as these 2 bars. So I don't even think we need to try those ones. We get a little bit of a different pattern down here. So we're moving to a B, but the rhythm is the same as what we had up here. So we get those 16th notes again, 1 E and 2. Now we're going to have a fingering switch on the B, 3 E and 4, and 1 and 2 and 3. So that right hand is fairly straightforward, as a lot of it is similar to what you had earlier. Let's take a look at the left hand. So starting right here, we now have a triad. So instead of the intervals like we had at the opening, even though the right hand is exactly the same here, the left hand has become a little bit fuller in the pattern. So we have an A and a C sharp and an E, which makes a triad. Can you guess which one? A major. And then this note stays the same, and the bottom 2 fingers move down. So once again, a practice tip for this would be to switch back and forth between those couple of chords till you get really comfortable with them. And then you can play it as written. Now we are switching here to the bass clef finally. And once again, we have a triad. So we have an F sharp, A, and a C sharp. This one sounds a little bit more sad. So I don't know if you can guess, but this is an F sharp minor triad here. So we have 1 and 2, and then our bottom finger is going to move down, but the upper 2 stay the same, 3 and 4. So I would encourage you to practice And just go back and forth over those 4 chords until they get really, really comfortable. You can do the same thing in the next line. We have a D, A, and a B for this chord here. And then for this chord here, E, G sharp, and D. So these ones are entirely different. There's no similar notes at all. And then into the final chord here, you'll notice the A and the E stay the same, and just that middle note changes. So here's the full left hand for that section. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And if you're really, really observant, you might have noticed I didn't follow all of the fingering that's on here. I find it a little bit more comfortable to use my 3 and 5 on this chord, and fingering is often negotiable. Some fingerings should be set in stone, but other times the fingerings can go to the comfort level of the performer. Let's go into the final section of this piece, which will be from here until here. So we have a whole new section here. I'll just play it for you once so you get an idea of how it goes, because it's a little bit different than what we had earlier in the piece. Now, did you notice any patterns between the right hand and the left hand? There are definitely some patterns to be noticed here that will make it a lot easier to learn. First of all, in the right hand, this pattern here happens 3 times. So we have that there, there, and there. So the opening 3 bars of this section all have that same pattern. Then they go to a little bit different pattern afterwards. So you have the G sharp, F sharp, and then the second one, we're going to go up. Then the third one, watch your fingering. So right there, you want to make sure you have the thumb on the F sharp. Sorry. And then finishing it off with an octave jump there. So once again, fairly straightforward if you can find those little patterns that help make it a lot easier to play. Let's talk about the left hand. So we have a C sharp and an F sharp and an A. So once again, if you're really familiar with your chords, you're going to know that this is an F sharp minor chord in second inversion. Here's the root position here. So we have that chord for an entire bar right here and into this right there. Now, and when we switch chords here, we keep the C, and then just the upper notes move up and back down. In the next bar, we have the same pattern again. Then we're going to keep the F sharp, but the other notes are going to switch. And then here, we keep the B and the G, and just move the middle. So this is another spot where you're going to want to practice just switching back and forth between the chords until it gets really, really comfortable. Now we have some interesting things in the next bar. We have a held C, which is going to hold for 2 beats, and then we have a staccato up here on the upper notes. So you're going to hold the bottom C and staccato off the top. So practice that a few times to get comfortable. Still holding the C on this one, and then moving here. 1 and 2 and. All right, so I already performed that part for you. So what I'm going to do now is go back to the beginning of the piece and give you some tips on how to play this piece really, really musically. We should also be aware that there are 2 endings. You have a first ending here and a second ending here. So when we repeat here, we actually go right back to the beginning of the piece, and then the second time, when you get to this bar, you're going to stop and jump to there. So that's how the repeat signs work for this piece. All right, so let's talk about some of the musical points for this. There's actually only one dynamic in this entire song, and that's the piano marking right at the beginning. So the whole piece should be very, very soft. At the same time, you want to make sure that your right hand melody always projects. So when you're working on the opening part of this piece, make sure you have a really nice balance between your two hands. Even though you're playing soft, in your right hand, make sure you play to the bottom of the key, like this. And notice on this half note E, I just roll my hand slightly forward. It gives it a nice ringing tone because the half note needs to last right until the end of the bar. When you play your left hand, you want to play it really gently so that it doesn't cover up the right hand. So that will sound like this. Nice and soft. Roll forward slightly. My right hand's right on the bottom of the key, my left hand very soft. Like that. And you can continue on with that type of balance all the way through the piece. Right hand very clear on the bottom of the key, the left hand playing very, very, very gently. Another thing that I'd like to add with this, because there's no dynamics at all that are written in other than the piano marking, is I still think it's important to add a little bit of a phrasing, we call it. So you can add slight crescendos and diminuendos as you play the piece. You might want one here and then here to finish off the phrase. Same thing in here and here. And then I think every piece has a climax or somewhere that it builds up to. And I think that happens in the first ending, starting around here. I think because you have the same pattern 3 times, each one should get a little bit bigger. So you're going to start off nice and soft here, and then this one's going to be a little more, and this one's going to be a little more. Finishing with a little bit of a diminuendo so that when you repeat the song and go back to the beginning, it's nice and soft. One last thing that we have in here is we have a ritardando, which means to slow down. So when you get to the last bar of the piece, you want to go nice and slow and soft. So I'll play you the full piece so you get an idea of how all of this sounds all put together. Feel free to add your own crescendos and diminuendos or work on that with your teacher to see what you prefer. So I'm just going to clear those out for now, but maybe you can have a listen to some of the musical ideas that I do as I play through the full song. I hope you liked learning this song today. I certainly enjoyed teaching it. Be sure to check back to our channel to watch other videos.
Hey everyone, thanks for watching Merriam's Online Academy. Check back here for more videos and don't forget to subscribe below.